Hello and welcome to another episode of the WonkyCast. On this week's show, we are chatting with John Helps, who is the guitarist from the fabulous Maybeshewill instrumental post-rock band from the Leicester area. You can find all sorts of links to John's website and the Maybeshewill website in the show notes. Their new album, Fair Youth, is currently available through either their website or you can listen to it through Spotify or whichever means you want to buy it from. The band themselves prefer if you buy it from their website because they run that themselves. So they have a very hands-on band, very DIY approach to what they do, which we totally believe in here. So by all means, go and support them, listen to it. The album is absolutely stunning. And until then, sit back, enjoy the show.
Big fucking gun!
You were actually down my neck of the woods last weekend anyway. You were at Truck Festival.
Yes.
Weirdly, that's the nearest festival to my house, and yet the one that I've never been to.
Oh, awesome.
It's literally like 10 minutes from my house. I've just, for some reason, I've just never managed to get there. How was it?
It was great. I think, I might be wrong, but I think Truck was the first, proper festival we ever played.
Right.
I went there, it's the first, when I was a teenager, I went to Reading and Leeds and sort of had a kind of weird time there.
As did we all, I think.
Yeah. And then, I can't remember, there's a bunch of bands I was really into that playing this festival called Truck that I'd never heard of. And me and a few friends went down and, just the striking difference between that festival and the mainstream ones was absolutely phenomenal. And now as I've got older, I realise there's loads of those festivals going on. But
yeah,
Truck
just got to look for them, I think.
Just a really special thing, like that 2000 Trees, Why Not, all these sort of smallish festivals that put on just good music.
Yeah,
I think.
Out of interest,
really love playing them.
Who were the bands that you were after seeing?
I think it was a band called Colour of Fire, who went on to be Grammatics.
Oh right, yeah.
And I might be making this up, but I think Biffy Clyro were playing the...
Yeah, they do tend to play quite a few places around here, because I think that they've certainly played at the Zodiac in Oxford and a couple of places like that, so I know they do play around this area quite a bit.
Yeah.
I think I saw them at the Zodiac years ago.
I've only been at the Zodiac once, and it was to see... Oh, I can't even... Who was it? The Wild Hearts, I think.
Oh, right, yeah, Ginger from the Wild... Yeah.
I don't even like the Wild Hearts. Don't know why I was there.
Weird.
The Zodiac was cool before, pre-Academy.
Yeah, it was, yeah, because I used to DJ downstairs there. So I used to run... I used to book bands for... I don't know if you've ever been there, the Bullingdon Arms, which is a club, just down the road from the Zodiac. Which we do. Well, it was a lot more kind of smaller bands and stuff. I think we had people like Oceanside and stuff playing there, but
awesome.
We never kind of got the big name bands down there unless it was kind of 20 years after they were famous. So we'd have people like Bad Manners and the Selector and stuff down there, all the original ska bands.
Oh, awesome.
So yeah, it was pretty cool. So anyways, a bit about Maybeshewill. Can you, for the uninitiated, how would you describe the band in a one-liner?
I really hate doing this because I'm terrible at it. We are a band that doesn't have a singer, and we have electronic bits.
Yeah.
I guess it's the really simplistic way of looking at it.
Yeah, because I think I kind of try and describe bands like yourselves and 65 Days of Static and stuff as kind of either post-rock or instrumental.
Yeah.
Does that kind of work?
Yeah, it does. We used to kind of reject the term post-rock a bit, but I don't think that's necessarily a useful thing to be doing. I guess if it's a term that helps people to find similar music that they can be into, then
I think certainly kind of when I find it's stuff like post-rock or math rock I tend to use as terms to find music like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So anyway, you have a new album due out August.
Yes, it's called Fair Youth, and we've spent ages on it.
When did you start recording that one?
We started recording kind of, I guess it would have been the back end of last year.
Right.
We'd been intending to like knuckle down and start recording and finish writing it for a really long time, but for the whole of 2013 we just kept getting offered these tours that we just couldn't turn down.
Yeah.
I don't think we did like a proper headline tour, but we did. We supported Anyone Else by the Trailer Dead, Dillinger Escape Plan, and every time we got offered them, we were like, oh, we should really really not do this. We should finish the record, but you can't turn down touring with some of your favourite bands.
Yeah, absolutely.
Live bands that there are. So we kept kind of put it on hold for a little bit. Wanted to do that, and then came back and sort of pretty seriously settled into it. And once we knuckled down, it came together relatively quickly. But it does seem like a really long time since we put a record out.
Yeah. When was the last one? That was it contract the last one?
I can't. I think it's 3 years. It might. Yeah, that sounds right. It could be 4.
Yeah.
Yeah, it must be 3.
Yeah. Was it Sing the Word Hope in 4-part harmony? Was that the last one?
No, that was the
2009. Yeah.
Yeah. That came out. That was 2 years before the last one, and then the first one was 1 year before that. So it's been kind of an exponential curve of time between.
What are the sort of themes of this one going into it?
There's a lot of ideas about kind of travel. I mean, having spent so much time on the road, a lot of the song titles, I guess, make that kind of obvious. There's a lot of ideas about being away from home.
Yeah.
Also, kind of using music as a sort of positive reaction to less positive things in real life, so to speak. A lot of the songs are we've done songs in major keys before, but most of this record is like major key positive sounds, trying to make kind of a positive record. That was kind of, I guess, the remit to a point.
Sure. Okay, cool. When you're actually out on tour and travelling, have you been do you come up with ideas that you then incorporate when you come back in?
Yes, certain band members do. We tend to have like a band member will bring an idea to the rest of the band, and it can be anything from like a small section to a relatively fully formed song.
Yeah.
We don't really write through like jamming.
Yeah.
We tend to everything in Maybeshewill is sort of picked over relatively extensively.
Yeah.
In the studio and before that, nothing kind of happens by accident. So every detail is kind of thought through.
Yeah, I was going to say, what's the kind of starting point on that? It's like, because I mean, obviously, quite a lot of them use like you get strange time signatures and stuff is a kind of key thing, and then the drums tend to be fairly, what's the word, central to everything that's going on. What's your sort of starting point?
On this record, Rob and Jamie have been sort of the principal songwriters, I guess, and they'll bring sort of something that's been put together on a computer, like using guitars and stuff. They'll bring kind of almost a complete song to the band, but then we'll take it apart as a group, and various people contribute other ideas, and in some cases a song is completely dismantled and put back together in a form that you wouldn't recognise from the start.
Yeah.
So it's it varies from song to song, but yeah, that's the general approach, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, is it hard to kind of reproduce that kind of thing live once you've got it all set, or is it fairly easy then to go and perform that kind of thing live?
I think when you're writing something like that, you consider how it's going to be done live, because we've been doing this Rob and I have been in the band for getting on for 10 years. We've been doing Maybeshewill together, so we kind of know what's achievable and what can be done. But generally, the song comes first. Like trying to make a song that works as and of itself before thinking about how it's going to be done live. But it is always at the back of your mind that this has got to be performed.
Yeah, it's got to be achievable.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, do you kind of tend to veer off what the recorded versions are and just kind of experiment? Do you do any kind of improvisation with it or anything when you're live?
Not live, no, but we will adjust the song slightly for like live performance.
Yeah.
We use a lot of samples and kind of track, and obviously since the last record we've had Matt on keys to do a lot of the electronic stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't really have to make a great deal of compromises, but little things do get adjusted.
Yeah, cool. Okay, now in terms of how the band works, I mean, I read an article that you posted online about kind of DIY in the music industry. Is that something that's been kind of core to the band since it began, or is that something that kind of progressed over time? Did you kind of start out like everybody else going, yeah, we want the big record deal, and then you decided to go more down that route?
I don't think we ever believed that we'd get a big record deal.
Right.
But the DIY thing was something that happened from the start, kind of out of necessity.
Yeah.
We didn't have a booking agent or a press agent or a manager, so we've kind of learned to do those things ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And then because we'd been able to do certain parts of the job to a reasonably high standard, we've continued doing that up till this day. And we do now have a press agent and a booking agent.
Yeah.
And they're like close friends of ours. They're like awesome people and people that we trust to do things the way that we'd want them done.
Yeah.
I guess.
I mean, was it difficult kind of starting off doing that? I mean, just kind of identifying kind of which venues you'd approach or how you would approach them or whatever?
Yeah, I guess so. It feels like a bit of a blur now. I'd been in a band prior to Maybeshewill that sounded nothing like Maybeshewill, but I'd learned a lot of how to approach venues and how to sort of pitch yourself realistically and who we should be talking to. And then kind of because we do a relatively, not niche, but there's definitely a scene for the kind of music we do. It makes it relatively easy to identify who you should be speaking to and who you should be who you should be booking shows for or whatever. And the first couple of tours we did were just with it was actually our drummer Jim, his old band called Fight Fire with Water. We did a tour with them that was like super small, like pub venues. Some shows we put on ourselves. Total like DIY tour, I guess. Yeah.
And, how do you find it? Because I guess the first step is kind of moving out of your catchment area and into somewhere new where there is a kind of local scene. How difficult is it to kind of crack into those scenes?
It seems to be much more difficult these days than it was when we were doing it.
Yeah.
When we first had to start doing those things, it just comes down to loads. Like, I briefly had a column in our local music magazine here.
Right.
When we were trying to give a name for it, Jamie from Maybeshewill suggested I called it 20,000 emails later. That's literally all it comes down to when you're like managing Maybeshewill is just sending emails and chasing people up and calling people and just trying to not being a pest. I think is quite important, but that persistence is that's the only way you get started and get things done.
Yeah, I think it's very key. I mean, because certainly the way that we do things with running podcasts and stuff here is it's very, very similar. You have to constantly kind of be putting pressure on people and gently reminding them that you wanted to do something, and then trying to get stuff booked in calendars and dealt with. It's and I guess it's just that first step of kind of trying to get people to take you seriously and go, yes, you know what, yes, we'll book you, we'll do such a thing. It's a tough thing, but do you think that the tools to help you do that kind of with the internet being a lot more available and social, do you think the tools are kind of out there that enable people to do it more now?
Absolutely. I think all bands have access to the internet, and I mean, can you imagine booking a tour before the internet existed?
I know, it's craziness.
I was talking to someone about this the other day. It absolutely blows my mind. So everyone's got it pretty easy, really.
Yeah.
It just comes down to that the persistence and actually doing it. You hear so many people. This isn't a complaint or a criticism of anyone like specifically, but a lot of the kind of younger bands that we kind of run into and that are struggling to get out of Leicester's music scene, they don't understand that they need to put those hours in and do the learning everyone.
I think there is a certain amount of people view it as a very much a kind of thing of you put it out there and then it magically occurs.
Yeah, exactly.
Your phone never stops ringing and you're constantly batting people off with sticks who are trying to book you to do stuff. But
yeah, I don't think that happens for anyone to start with. I mean, for some bands, the right thing to do is to be looking for someone to do that work for them. Like if you're the kind of act that is, gunning for a major deal, then you should be looking for management and a team to be behind you. But for the vast majority of bands, particularly people in our kind of area of music, just getting out and doing stuff and proving your worth is infinitely more sensible way to start doing things, I think.
Yeah, I mean, do you think that you were saying about how there's kind of niche areas now where you kind of see the same bands at the same things? Do you think that is increasing exposure of the band, or do you think there needs to be kind of more, I don't know, cross-pollination of the genres in different festivals and so forth?
I know we've always tried to not just do the post-rock thing. I think we've done some great tours with other post-rock bands like And So I'll Watch You From Afar, Light, some really awesome bands, but we've always tried to kind of maintain sort of when we're doing our headline tours, do kind of pretty diverse bills, try and have bands with singers for a start. We did a great tour with And You and I. It was one of the most fun tours we've ever done, and you get both audiences then. You get people that are into post-rock, math rock or whatever, and people that are into something a bit different, and I think that can be useful. But having the genres, it makes it easy to target people that are going to be into it. Yeah.
I mean, do you think there's how do you go about finding new music? Because my kind of thing is I'll just kind of spend ages using stuff like Last.fm and using the recommend features, or I will go out to gigs, not particularly knowing who's playing, but there'll be 3 people on a bill, and I'll just go and see it just to see if it is any good. I don't know, kind of how do you go out and find new music?
Tends to be word of mouth, I think, or through bands that we play with on festivals or tours. There's a band called Waking Ada who we've just released their album on our sort of DIY label that we run.
Yeah. I've heard the name. I think I got something through from Bands in Town about them the other day.
Ah, right, cool. Yeah, they're absolutely incredible sort of post-rock band, I guess.
Yeah.
We played with them in Southampton probably 4 or 5 years ago when we were touring with And So I'll Watch You From Afar.
Right.
And they were so good that, I mean, you play with a different band every night, local support-wise.
Yeah.
They were one of the ones that really stood out, and you remember them. And then 4 or 5 years later, they sent us an email, and I was like, "Oh, amazing! Yeah, I remember you guys. I remember how excited I was about them on that show."
Yeah.
And we've kind of stayed in touch, and when they were looking for someone to put the record out, we offered to help. But that's not an exception to the rule, because you do find a lot of interesting stuff that way, but tends to be people on similar labels. I personally tend to be into stuff from Big Scary Monsters, Alco Pop.
Yeah.
You tend to know that those labels are representing a sort of degree of quality.
Yeah.
Just people talking about music. I think I work for a venue and I tour manage other bands, so I tend to be around people talking about music a lot, and I guess I hear it that way.
Yeah, sure. What venue do you work for?
It's a place called Firebug in Leicester.
Okay, I think to be honest, I've never really been to Leicester. I've kind of been around various areas around there, but never actually been into Leicester.
I love Leicester, and it's a really good city to be making music in. But I see no reason that you would have had to come here.
All right, fair enough.
It's perhaps more recently, like the city seems to be in a bit of a revival. It's not just like culturally, I guess it's kind of nice to be here at this point in time. But yeah, all of Maybeshewill do various things in the city's music scene. Like Jamie he's a recording engineer, producer,
Sure.
so he works with a lot of the local bands here as well as people from further afield. I work for Firebug. Matt, our keyboard player, he works for another venue called The Cookie. So we're all like constantly involved in things in the local music scene.
Excellent. Oh, that's cool. Intriguing. I shall have to check out what's going on in the Leicester music scene.
It's a weird old place. Like there's people doing really good things, but it can be like it's a hard scene to be a part of.
Yeah.
People out to shows and stuff, but I'm sure that's the case everywhere.
Well, yeah. So I know from being part of the Oxford music scene for quite a while, it is very, very difficult because people always kind of whinge, you know, that there's nothing going on, there's nothing to go to, and then you put nights on and then nobody turns up, and it's a real tough sell because I mean certainly Oxford doesn't exactly have a massive kind of alternative population and has a massive student population from both Oxford University and Brookes, so it's very, very difficult to try and get word out in Oxford.
Yeah, I mean it must be a sort of relatively similar, perhaps not similar size, but yeah, we've got two universities here.
Yeah,
I always thought of Oxford as having an incredible music scene.
I mean, a couple of decent bands have come out of there, but there's just that there aren't that many great venues in the area. I think that's the major problem with Oxford, is there is only what was the Zodiac now. Oh. Hello.
Hello, sorry about that.
That's all right, mate. No worries. Yeah. I think in terms of venues in Oxford, there is only really the Zodiac now, the O2. There's the Bullingdon, which is kind of still going, and then there's a couple of really small ones like the Port Mahon and stuff. So you get a couple of decent bands coming out of there, but I think the majority of them, I don't know, it's a very transient population with the amount of students there compared to the people who actually live there.
I guess it was maybe like when we were first starting Maybeshewill, you had like Foals, Youth Movies, Jonquil, obviously Radiohead.
Yeah.
And a lot of those, a lot of those guys are still doing something now. The Jonquil and Youth Movies guys, Pet Moon and
I'm not
other
sure.
Little kind of new bands.
Because there's stuff like Young Knives and things that came out of Oxford
as
well.
Yeah. I was always jealous of Oxford.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. It may just be a grass is greener type thing.
Yeah, it probably is. Yeah.
Cool. Let me just check where I'm at with my notes.
In fairness, we just have Kasabian, so...
Oh, right, okay. Well, they're not bad. I quite like Kasabian. There was something else I was going to ask you about, the kind of DIY thing. That was it. It was about kind of, do you think that a lot of other bands are starting to kind of move towards this as a way of doing it themselves, or do you think people are still trying to go for that ideal of getting an agent, getting a record contract? What do you think the kind of feel is amongst the kind of music industry?
I'm not sure. Definitely seems. I don't know. Like I was saying, I think it's different paths work for different bands.
Yeah, I think it's probably because you kind of, when you're in that kind of environment, you see more people doing it, and I don't know, it kind of feels like there's a lot more people out there trying to get music out, using stuff like, Bandcamp or whatever to promote themselves. But then also it seems like it's difficult to find. I don't know. There's a lot of bands on there, and it kind of seems difficult for people to rise above the amount of noise that's out there.
Yeah. It's the being able to filter that that music and find the genuinely great stuff.
Yeah,
I guess that's what record labels are kind of there for.
Yeah,
to be the barrier between artists and the public.
Yeah.
Yes, we work with a record label. We've just moved to Super Bowl, which is a pretty big step for us.
Yeah.
But I guess I don't know whether we'd still be putting out music if we weren't working with a label. I guess we probably would.
Yeah.
I think if the quality is there, eventually it will be picked up on. like it may just take a little longer if you're not going through the kind of conventional music industry avenues.
Yeah. So I was going to say, I guess out of all of it, if you had kind of one bit of advice to give to a band, what would it be?
Send a lot of emails.
The 20,000 emails.
Yeah. But don't be a pain as well. That's like the biggest one.
Yeah, I guess it's about maintaining professionalism.
Yeah. I guess like as someone that works for a venue as well as is in a band, you see both sides of it. But you get bands that just email constantly, and it's like, well, like clearly I'm not interested. Like it doesn't matter. Sometimes it doesn't matter how good you are. So there just won't be an audience in Leicester on a Wednesday night, so it's not in anyone's interest to come and play the show.
Yeah,
true. But yeah, just be like persistent and professional, and I think that's all you can do, really.
Cool. All right, dude. Well, thank you very much for taking some time out to have a chat.
No worries. Nice to speak to you.
That's awesome. Thank you very much. Well, we should be. I'll be cutting it all together. It'll probably go out a week on Monday, I would have thought.
Oh, awesome.
Because I've got another one due to go out next Monday. So yeah, it'll likely be the following Monday. So yes, by all means, everybody. Album date is 25th of August. Yeah.
It is indeed. Yeah.
Can you pre-order it anywhere, or is it through the website?
Yeah, you can pre-order it on Maybeshewill.net. At the moment, and I think by next week it'll be up in most real internet shops and stuff.
Reputable record stores.
Yeah. We did have a limited blue vinyl version that was on our store. That's sold out, but there's going to be a limited red vinyl version.
Cool.
On the Super Bowl store, I guess that's like. But if you prefer your vinyl black, then you can get that everywhere.
Sweet. Cool. Okay, well, we shall pop links to all that in the show notes.
Nice one. Very
Lovely.
much.
Cheers for taking the time out, mate.
Cheers. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Big fucking gun!